You speak too much, not loudly, not foolishly, but just enough to be seen, just enough to be predictable. And that is the most expensive mistake you keep repeating without noticing. Silence is not absence. It is pressure. It is weight. It is the space where other people begin to fill in the gaps for you, and they almost always fill them in your favor if you know how to hold it. Right now, you don't. Right now, you explain yourself before anyone asks. You soften your edges before anyone tests them. You reveal intention before anyone earns the right to see it. And every time you do, something invisible shifts. Power leaks, interest fades, respect quietly recalibrates downward. You don't feel it immediately. That's why it works. The damage happens in rooms you've already left, in conversations you'll never hear, in judgments formed long before outcomes arrive. People don't react to what you say. They react to what your words remove. Mystery, tension, uncertainty. Machiavelli would never confuse clarity with strength. He understood that the mind fills silence faster than it absorbs speech. When you talk less, others lean in. When you explain less, they assume more. When you react slower, they project depth where there may be none, and that projection becomes reality. This is uncomfortable because it forces you to sit with yourself. No performance, no reassurance, just restraint. And restraint feels like loss to those addicted to expression. The first discomfort you feel when you stop speaking is not weakness leaving your body. It is dependency being exposed. You've trained people to expect access to your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions. When you remove that access, they feel the withdrawal, not you. Watch what happens when you pause half a second longer than expected, when you answer without decoration, when you let silence land and do not rush to save the moment. The room shifts, not dramatically, subtly. Eyes adjust, energy recalibrates. People begin measuring you instead of consuming you. This is where leverage begins, not in dominance, in containment. Most men think power is displayed. It isn't. It's detected. And detection happens in what you don't give away. Right now, you are loud in places where silence would make you untouchable. You think being understood keeps you safe. It doesn't. It makes you manageable. The moment you stop narrating yourself, everything starts responding differently. And that difference is not accidental. It's ancient. It's psychological. It's inevitable once you stop interfering with it. Most people talk because silence makes them nervous. They confuse noise with relevance and words with control. The moment you start speaking to fill space, you give the room information it did not ask for. You reveal pace, intent, insecurity. You expose where you are trying to go before you have arrived. Power leaks fastest through unnecessary explanation. This is why silence feels threatening. It withholds data. It forces others to calculate without certainty. Machiavelli would never rush to clarify his position. He understood that the one who speaks less forces others to move first. Watch what happens when you stop narrating yourself. Conversations slow. People lean in slightly. They begin projecting meaning onto you because the human mind hates empty space. When you say less, others fill the gap with their assumptions, and assumptions reveal far more than statements ever could. This is not manipulation. It is observation through restraint. Those who speak constantly never hear the truth. They drown it out with their own need to be seen. Most men believe influence comes from being impressive. It does not. It comes from being unreadable. The more predictable your reactions, the easier you are to manage. The more you explain your motives, the easier you are to position. Silence interrupts this process. It removes the script others expect you to follow. When you do not respond immediately, you shift pressure outward. They begin adjusting to you instead of the other way around. Notice how quickly people try to rescue silence. They laugh, they justify, they offer more than was asked. This reflex exposes hierarchy. Those who feel equal do not rush to fill gaps. Those who feel lower cannot tolerate them. When you remain calm inside quiet, you signal internal stability. Not confidence as performance, but control as posture. That distinction is everything. Saying less also protects you from your own impulses. Most mistakes are verbal, promises made too early, opinions shared without leverage, emotion released before strategy is formed. Words create commitments, and commitments limit movement. Silence keeps options open. It allows you to watch patterns repeat before you decide where to intervene. Machiavellian awareness begins with patience, not action. People will test this. They will provoke, interrupt, exaggerate, hoping to pull a reaction out of you. If you comply, you hand them rhythm. If you do not, you take it. Control over tempo is control over interaction. When you respond slowly and precisely, your words land heavier. They are not lost in noise. They are measured, remembered. The world is trained by how quickly you react. Immediate responses suggest urgency, and urgency suggests need. When you remove urgency from your speech, you remove leverage others have over you. Silence is not absence. It is containment, and containment is the beginning of authority. Men speak too much because silence makes them feel exposed. They rush to explain, to clarify, to soften what they just said, not realizing the damage is already done. Every extra word lowers their position, not because the words are wrong, but because they reveal need. The need to be understood, the need to be approved, the need to control how they are perceived. Power has no such urgency. Power can wait. Power can leave things unsaid and let others sit with the uncertainty. Machiavelli would never mistake silence for weakness. He understood that what is withheld often carries more weight than what is given freely. When you speak less, something subtle shifts. People begin filling the gaps for you. They project intentions, meanings, and authority onto the space you leave behind. This is not manipulation. It is perception physics. The mind dislikes empty space. When you stop over-delivering, others start working. They lean in. They re-evaluate. They listen differently. A man who speaks carefully is assumed to think deeply. A man who explains everything is assumed to think shallowly, even when he doesn't. Notice how influence fades the moment you justify yourself. Justification signals uncertainty. It tells the room you are negotiating your own position. The moment you defend, you downgrade. The moment you clarify without being asked, you surrender leverage. This is why silence feels dangerous at first. It removes your illusion of control. You are no longer steering perception directly. You are allowing it to form. And that loss of control terrifies men who rely on words to maintain relevance. Most people do not listen to what you say. They listen to how you hold yourself while saying it. Tone, timing, restraint. When your words are scarce, they become heavier. When they are constant, they become noise. The world does not reward noise. It tolerates it. Influence comes from contrast, from the man who speaks after others finish, from the one who pauses before answering, from the one who can end a conversation without wrapping it in politeness. This is where attraction, respect, and authority quietly realign. Not through dominance, through gravity. People begin adjusting to you instead of the other way around. They wait, they watch, they measure. You become less readable, and therefore more interesting. Less reactive, and therefore more dangerous. Machiavellian thinking was never about being loud. It was about being positioned. about understanding that those who reveal everything remove all mystery, and mystery is where power hides. The discipline is not in saying nothing. It is in saying only what cannot be ignored, in letting silence do the filtering for you, in resisting the urge to correct misunderstandings that do not harm you, in allowing others to sit with their assumptions. Most men talk themselves out of influence without realizing it, not because they say the wrong things, but because they say too many. Silence is not empty, it is loaded. The moment you stop filling space, people begin filling it for you. They project, assume, calculate, and while they are doing that work, you are already ahead. Speaking less is not about politeness, it is about removing access. The less you say, the less surface you give others to grip, twist, or weaken. This is where leverage quietly forms. Those who talk too much reveal their timing, their doubts, their hunger to be understood. Those who speak with precision leave others unsure, and uncertainty is where attention sharpens. Notice how dynamics shift when you stop explaining yourself. The room subtly leans in. Not because you became louder, but because you became unreadable. People are conditioned to expect clarification and reassurance. When it does not arrive, they feel a psychological itch. That discomfort pulls focus toward you. Even Machiavelli would never waste words where silence could force others to move first. Speech should never be a reflex. It should be a decision with consequence. Most mistakes are not made through action. They are made through unnecessary disclosure. You say what you plan to do, and the energy leaks. You justify a decision, and its authority dissolves. You answer too fully, and you give away the frame. Words feel harmless, but they are commitments. Once spoken, they can be measured and challenged. Silence keeps options alive. It keeps you fluid while others lock themselves into positions they cannot retreat from. There is a darker truth. People respect boundaries they cannot cross. Constant talking is an open door. Silence is a closed one. When you stop narrating your thoughts, people stop assuming access to them. They hesitate. That hesitation changes how they treat you. Power often arrives not through dominance, but through the quiet signal that you do not need approval to exist in the space. This does not mean disappearing. It means compressing. Fewer words, heavier weight. When you do speak, it lands because it interrupts expectation. A short sentence after prolonged quiet carries more force than a paragraph delivered eagerly. Silence builds contrast. Contrast builds impact. Control is not about saying the right thing. It is about knowing when saying nothing reshapes the situation in your favor. The world is loud. Most people drown themselves in their own noise. When you step out of that current, you are felt as different. Harder to read, harder to predict. And predictability is where influence dies. This is why everything changes when you say less. Conversations slow around you. Others reveal more, trying to fill the gap you left. You learn while they expose. Silence becomes a filter that removes weakness before it ever leaves your mouth. Over time, people begin adjusting to you instead of the other way around. And that shift is never accidental. Speech is rarely the problem. Timing is, volume is, frequency is. The man who speaks constantly believes he is asserting control, when in reality, he is revealing impatience. Every unnecessary word is a signal that silence makes him uncomfortable, and discomfort leaks power. The room feels it before the mind explains it. Authority is not established by being understood. It is established by being measured. Silence unsettles people because it creates space. Space forces interpretation. When you speak less, others begin filling the gaps with their own assumptions. And assumptions are more powerful than statements. You cannot argue with what was never said. You cannot defend against what you cannot name. This is why restraint has always belonged to those who understand influence. Machiavelli would never waste clarity on those who have not earned access to it. Watch how dynamics shift the moment you stop narrating yourself. When you stop explaining motives, when you stop clarifying tone, when you let a sentence end without cushioning its impact. People lean in, not because you demanded attention, but because attention has nowhere else to go. Silence acts like gravity. It pulls focus inward, toward you. Men who talk too much believe transparency builds trust. What it actually builds is familiarity, and familiarity erodes edge. The more people feel they know you, the less they feel compelled to respect you. Mystery is not deception. It is discipline. It is the ability to decide what remains unsaid. Power has always favored the one who can hold back. Notice how quickly others reveal themselves when you don't rush to respond. They overcorrect. They add details. They justify. They explain. In their need to fill the void, they show you their pressure points. Silence invites disclosure without asking for it. This is not manipulation. It is observation. It is patience applied strategically. When you speak less, your words change weight. Each sentence carries consequence. Each pause sharpens intent. People begin remembering what you say because there is less of it. Scarcity increases value. This is true of attention, emotion, and speech. Those who speak rarely are assumed to be thinking. Those who speak constantly are assumed to be reacting. There is a reason decisive figures throughout history were described as reserved, not verbose. Not because they lacked thoughts, but because they understood sequence. They spoke when the moment required imprint, not relief. They knew that urgency often disguises insecurity. Calm is never loud. You do not need to dominate conversations to control direction. You only need to resist the impulse to fill every gap. Let silence do what words cannot. Let others reveal urgency while you remain still. In that stillness, hierarchy quietly rearranges itself. Silence is not the absence of action. It is action without exposure. When you stop narrating yourself, people begin narrating you instead. They fill the gaps with assumptions, projections, and unease. And while they are busy doing that work, you are no longer spending energy managing their comfort. This is where leverage quietly consolidates, not through confrontation, not through dominance, but through refusal to leak information that weakens position. Machiavelli would never confuse visibility with control. He understood that the loudest presence is often the least protected. Most losses of power happen through speech, not mistakes. One extra sentence, one unnecessary explanation, one emotional clarification that hands timing to the other side. Words feel harmless in the moment. They feel human, but each one fixes you into a shape others can anticipate. Once anticipation forms, influence collapses. You are no longer a variable. You are a pattern. Patterns get managed. Silence interrupts patterns. It forces recalculation. It denies closure. It creates a delay between stimulus and response, and that delay is where authority lives. People respect what they cannot immediately read. They adjust around what does not rush to reassure them. When you say less, you are not withdrawing. You are repositioning above the noise where reactions lose access to you. This is why restraint unsettles insecure environments. It removes the usual signals people rely on to decide how far they can push. No quick agreement, no instant defense, no emotional transparency. Just presence, measured responses, and space. Space makes others reveal themselves. They speak more. They explain. They overextend. You learn without offering anything back. Silence also disciplines you. It cuts off impulsive self-sabotage. It keeps you from trading long-term leverage for short-term relief. Every time you resist filling a gap, you reinforce internal authority. You become harder to rush, harder to provoke, harder to manipulate. That stability compounds. People begin waiting for you. They begin adjusting their tone, not consciously, instinctively. Nothing dramatic needs to change. No announcement, no persona shift, just subtraction. Fewer words, fewer reactions, fewer explanations. Let outcomes speak. Let discomfort remain unresolved. Let others sit with uncertainty while you remain composed inside it. This is not passivity, it is control without performance. If you want the world to treat you differently, stop making it easy to read you. Stop feeding it clarity before it earns it. Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure held in reserve. And once you feel that pressure working for you instead of against you, you will know exactly when to speak again,